Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence, and I hope you're doing good. A big mahalo for tuning in. We're fortunate to have a true giant in music taking our call today. He is in the midst of some triumphant gigs in Japan and has Take Your Pick out with Tak Matsumoto with the tasty new Tokyo Nights you may have heard. We'll hear about that, plus some of his stories of working with music greats like Steely Dan, Michael Jackson, John Lennon, Jerry Garcia, to name a brief select few of his mind-boggling resume listings. He's performing 3 dates in the islands. We're fortunate to have him coming through. Friday, September 24th on Maui at the Max. Saturday, September 25th at the Manoa Jazz and Cultural Festival at UH Manoa. And Sunday, September 26th at UH Hilo, all on sale now. This guy is a ferocious monster on guitar, so let's hope we can handle him for a conversation. It's a great pleasure to say aloha and mahalo to Larry Carlton. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm good. What an introduction. Thanks. That was great.
I'd be in trouble with myself. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give you the heaping praise you deserve. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we catch up with Larry while he's doing I don't think you could describe it any way other than saying a massive assault on Tokyo. How many gigs are you in the midst of doing there?
You know, Dave, 2 months ago, Talk and I started a tour here, and we were here 28 days and did 18 shows, and we were invited back to do 5 more shows this past week, including last night at the Tokyo Jazz Festival. So it's just been a great, as you said, assault on Japan for the last couple of months.
It's good stuff. What's the now? What's that total? Is that something? Am I 23? Is that the right number there, Larry?
I'm sorry?
23 total shows. Is that the right number?
It sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Man, and then were there others? And those were all in Tokyo, or did you hit some other cities too?
Oh no, we hit some other cities. We did Osaka and Fukuoka, and then 6 nights in Tokyo last tour, and then this tour we hit Sapporo, Sendai, Tokyo Jazz Festival, and 2 more special nights at the Blue Note Tokyo coming up this coming week.
Now, do you do the train to get around once you're there?
It varies. Sometimes we take the bullet train, and then sometimes we have to fly. We had to fly to Sapporo. It's all the way in the north, And then we took a bullet train down to Sendai and took a train back to Tokyo.
What's the best memory so far?
Wow. The one that comes to mind is, let me preface it by saying, for those of you that might not be aware of Tak Matsumoto, the great guitarist from Japan, he is the leader, producer, songwriter, guitarist of a group here in Japan for the last 20 years called the Bees. B apostrophe Z. Well, the Bees have sold 85 million units over the last 20 years. Wow. And so the memory that comes to me is walking out on stage with Talk for the first time in Japan and seeing all the little girls start to cry because they could be that close to Talk. Normally he plays 20,000 seaters. And for them to walk in and be that close to Talk, we're doing very intimate clubs, 300 to 500 seats, some of them 1,500 seats. But all of his fans got to be that close to him, and it was really a thrill to see their faces.
Yeah, I bet you could just feel the energy from it. You've described it well, and these were what was the size of each of these venues approximately?
Some of them, like I say, were 1,500 seaters, which are small for Talk and his rock group, the Bees, but for he and I, that's the appropriate size to present the music, the instrumental music we're doing now. So if it was any smaller than that, it meant we would do 2 shows a night, 300 to 400 seats, and the ticket prices are about $150 a seat.
Good for you, man. It's a great racket. I love it, Larry.
We're having a great time.
You should be, man. And is this the biggest string of dates you've ever done in Japan?
No, I am been very fortunate. I've been coming to Japan since 1974. My first trip here in 74 was way back with the Crusaders. And since then, I've been coming, I've been here probably 40 times over the last 30 years. And usually it's a month at a time, so we can hit all the cities that want to hear us play.
That's nice. That's a nice way to do it. And when you're not actually playing over there, what are some of the things that you like to do for fun or recreation on your precious time off?
There's not much time off, to tell you the truth. Of course, we enjoy all of the food, from the traditional Japanese food to the Kobe steak dinners. You know, they're very famous beef here. And also they have great Korean barbecue restaurants. So we enjoy the food, and but I spend quite a bit of time just keeping my health together by resting appropriately, because it's a very busy schedule with interviews and concerts.
What are you most proud of with Take Your Pick?
Wow. I'm most proud, I think, of being able to associate myself with one of the most embraced superstars of Asia, in that my audience has followed me, for more than 30 years, and there's such a loyal audience here in Japan. And I know it's a thrill for them to see me with one of their true superstars. And I think that's been so rewarding to me, to give back to them my association with talk.
Dig that, man. That is for sure. And when I've been listening to the Tokyo Nights track, it's quite catchy. What are you doing when a song like that comes to you and arrives? Like, if you can just take me to the moment you say, "Oh, I've got this riff." Like, where were you? What are you up to?
Again, Talk is such a great composer, and he's not just locked in, to the Bees style of music. And when we decided to do an instrumental album together, Talk got busy and wrote 3 songs first. Before I had composed anything, I was on the road. And I came to Tokyo maybe 2 years ago to meet with Talk, and we went into his studio, and he had Tokyo Nights written. And all we had to do was arrange it and decide who was going to play where. So that's a Talk composition, and it shows how versatile he is, that he could come to my world doing more instrumental music than just doing the stuff he did with the Bees.
It has decent tone on that. I like the sound of the guitar. It has a kind of a really meaty sound. And your name has been, aside from this great record, and you coming to Hawaii for these 3 shows, a band that are really big here at Steely Dan. Recently, you got to be part of some magic with Steely Dan, and they sounded like real events. Share some of the behind-the-scenes stories from those.
Sure. As you know, the albums I played on with Steely Dan that are best known, I would say, are The Royal Scam and Asia. And that was 33 years ago. And I never played live with Steely Dan, just recorded with them. And as you know, for many years, Steely Dan did not tour. But then they started back touring, I don't know, a decade or a little more ago. So, I got a call from their office saying, the guys want to have you come in and be a special guest on 9 shows, and they want to perform the entire Royal Scam album. And it was great because no rehearsal. They didn't want to get together. And I had to go back and learn my solo from Kid Charlemagne, which I recorded, like I say, 33 years ago. And showed up at the first gig in New York City and walked out on stage and opened the show with Kid Charlemagne. It was just a thrill to be with the guys.
Man, I really, The Royal Scam is one of my very favorite tunes. That is some catchy stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like an epic. It's like a little adventure in there. It's a great way to, if you're not, it's a great introduction to deeper sort of Steely Dan, aside from, everything they're really known for on the radio, I guess.
Yeah.
A couple of artists that you've gotten to be a part of their lives and vice versa, I just am curious about. Michael Jackson. I see his name, and I did a little homework. Is the Off the Wall record the only thing that you recorded with him, or was there more?
No, that was the only one, and it was actually a very specific track on Off the Wall for Michael Jackson that Quincy Jones called me to play on. She's Out of My Life is the name of the beautiful ballad on Off the Wall, and that was Michael's 4th single from that album. And Quincy said that when they picked that song and Michael did his vocal, he said, got to have Carlton on this one. So he called me just for that one track.
Well, one's enough, my brother, especially with MJ. Tell me, when was the first time that you met Michael Jackson?
You're going to love this. Had never met the man.
It's one of those. It doesn't surprise me. I was completely prepared for that sort of thing. So it was one of those kind of things. You just went in there and knocked it out.
Yeah, his vocal was finished, and the Fender Rhodes part that Greg Fillinganes had laid down was the only two things on the track at the time I played. And I remember somebody in the studio that day saying, "Has anybody talked to Michael recently?" And Quincy said, "No, I haven't heard from him in a few weeks." A few minutes later, the phone rang in the studio, and it was Michael, and he was in Australia. Nobody knew where he was. And so Quincy said, "Hey, well, listen to the stuff we're doing with Carlton." And he held the phone up just like you or I would, and he played the track for him.
And did you ever talk to him?
Nope, never did. Never did.
Wow.
That's the typical studio musician role. Go in and play the music, and often the artist is not there.
Yep, no, I know that, and I know that well, but it's still cool. It's great that you got to be just a part of it, and for us to hear those exciting details. Take me back to 1973, I think it was. Phil Spector, John Lennon.
Yeah, very unique situation, and I really did not share this story I'm going to tell you until after John Lennon's passing.
Okay.
But yeah, Phil Spector was producing an album for John Lennon of old rock and roll hits from the 50s and 60s. But John was drinking at the time. That was a period in his life that was not so healthy. And I got to the studio, and Leon Russell was playing keyboards, and a bunch of other people were there, and we sat around for 3 or 4 hours and didn't play anything, just kind of hanging out at A&M Studios. And Leon Russell and I actually went into a different studio and just started jamming and hanging out, him playing the piano. And finally it was time to come in and do a track for John. Well, it was not a very pleasant experience because of John's drinking. And I had been booked to record with them for the next 5 nights. And I got home and actually just left a message on Phil Spector's office phone that, "Hi, this is Larry, but I'm not going to be able to make it the rest of the week because it just wasn't fun."
Wow. Say again?
I say, it was just a dark period right there, and I really chose not to be part of it.
Wow, no, it's fascinating just to hear. So you were scheduled to do a total of 5 nights. You were booked in advance. Now, who booked you, John, or who arranged it?
Phil Spector's office Phil put together the kind of all-star band he wanted to do these tracks with, but it was just running a little too loose for me at the time, and I just took the week off.
What an honor, though. I mean, the positives in it are huge. You were chosen by Phil Spector to be in his all-star band for John Lennon sessions?
Yeah, but it just didn't quite work out.
Dude, I'm still high-fiving your ass on that one. That's large, Larry. That is large. And you did get to at least spend a little time with him.
Yeah, we sat next. He was right in the little cubicle, if you will, divider between his guitar and mine for the one track that we tried to cut that night. We actually laid down a track on a song called Boney Maroney, and I'm not even sure it ended up on the album, to tell you the truth.
Wow. And so very little interaction with him.
Yes.
Amazing stuff. This morning, I was really liking this, too. It's nice to actually share it with you in the same day it was occurring. This morning, I was kicking back and enjoying your work on the 1974 Garcia Compliments album from Jerry.
You know something, that album, I remember going in and doing one song, if you will, 1 3-hour session with Jerry. And it's my recollection that that album did not come out for many, many, many years after we recorded it. And I actually was on a tour in the States and did an interview with the radio guy, and he said, "We're going to play the new cut that you're on with Jerry Garcia," and I honestly didn't even remember the song.
Oh, it's crazy business. You're on 4 of them according to the liner notes, which I
don't even remember.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. There are 4 tracks that you're credited on. Each track has its own. I have the what is it? It's called. I forget the name of it now, but it's a big box set of all the solo Jerry.
Oh yeah, Yeah, I was just doing dates back then, so I just showed up at the studio and played and went to the next sessions, and it came out years later.
And no interaction with him?
No, not at all that I remember.
What a cool gig, man. You just show up, you're that in demand, and people know they want. Is it your sound? Is it your reliability? Is it that you always deliver? Why is it that you get the call?
I think, humbly, it's everything you just stated. And I've been blessed as a musician to be very, very, very versatile. And that in my attitude toward being a session musician was, I'm here to help the producer and the artist make the record they want to make. So I was a real servant back in those days. Whatever they wanted me to contribute to, I would. It wasn't about me, it was about them.
You were laying down the law, and we were all just so proud of you for it. The highest or most significant moment of the many artists you've been privileged to play with, who would it be?
Well, there definitely would not be just one.
It can be a small group. I didn't mean to narrow it down.
Yeah. I started doing sessions when I was 22 years old. That would be 1970. And in 1971, I showed up to a session for the folk singer Donovan. And when I walked in the studio, Joe Sample was sitting there at the acoustic piano before we actually started recording. And I had never met Joe, but I was a jazz Crusader fan in my teens. And I plugged in my guitar and started playing along with Joe. He was playing the acoustic. And then the session started, and we did the Donovan songs, whatever they were, and I went home. That was on a Friday night. Monday morning, my phone rang. It was the Crusaders' office saying, can you come record for the next 2 weeks with the Crusaders? They're in the studio now. And I went in, and we did Crusader 1, and that was the beginning of that whole association. And definitely a milestone. A milestone in my career.
It's so huge, and so many great sounds you did in that era. Finally, Larry, with your connection to Hawaii, we're in a unique spot in the world. What's your background with the islands in terms of personal experiences here?
It's been a number of years since I've come to Hawaii, but in 1991 or 2, it was 91 or 92. My children would have been like 8 and 10 years old, and Michelle and I booked a week at Maui and brought the kids and just splurged and enjoyed the atmosphere, and we stayed at the Ritz. I mean, we did the whole let's go celebrate in Hawaii thing. So we love coming. I'm so looking forward to coming back and playing for you folks.
We're looking forward to having you. Hope you can tell you're getting the reverence here from us. And
thank you.
And I just leave you with this. We're the statewide NPR member station in Hawaii, so we're listener-supported, and we get very little of our funding from underwriting. We're really underwritten by the listeners. It's a fantastic arrangement and a huge enterprise throughout all the islands. And I was just hoping, when you're in Honolulu, if you'd be willing to record just a brief in-person interview with me that we could use during our upcoming pledge drive, was just a nice incentive for folks to contribute.
Sure, it'd be a pleasure.
That wouldn't be too much of a hassle while you're in Honolulu.
Yeah, I'm sure you can set that up with my tour manager. He'll know my schedule and what times I'm available and all that stuff.
You're the man. I hope this wasn't too much of a hassle today. I've really enjoyed getting to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Aloha, this is Larry Carlton, and you're tuned to the only show that matters, with my friend Dave Lawrence. Brother Dave, that is one tasty 420 you've got.
A big hug, my brother. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Thank you so much again, Larry.
Hey, just a pleasure, Dave. I'm glad we got to do this. You're well prepared, you're comfortable to talk to, and I know your listeners like listening to you.
Well, you're the man. High five. Be safe. Enjoy Japan. Have a little sushi for me. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Aloha, brother.